If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. Well, another season has come upon us and it's time to get some seeds started indoors. We always start with onion seeds, and we've done onion seeds over the last decade in a variety of different methods starting them, and we have found that the method I'm going to show you has been the far outleading success of all of them. So the first thing we need to understand about planting onions, whether buying the starts, the green bundle at your garden center, starting from seed here, or if you decide to do the sets, first we need to understand what region we are. The onions fall into three categories. Long day, which is grown in the northern portions of the United States, neutral or midday in the central portions of the United States, and short day grown in the southern parts of the United States. The sets are the little bulbs that you get in the bundle. Those we do not recommend growing because though those are quick to put in the ground, those have a tendency to go to bolt or go to seed. Onions are biennials, meaning they flower on their second year. Those bulbs or those sets have been grown in the fall, harvested, packaged, went into dormancy, brought to your garden center, you purchase them, you put them in the ground, and they think it's their second year growing. So their job is to put seed pods on and not really focus on the bulb development. What the alternative to seed starting, as we're doing here, would be the sets, the bundles of green live onions that you would get at your garden center that you can put right in the ground. We've used those for several years. They've worked very, very well. I would avoid the sets if you're not going to seed start and go with the starts, which is the bundle of green onions in the category, if you're in the north, long day, middle of the United States, neutral day, and in the south, short day. So here's what we've got in our seed starting application here. We're going to do leeks in a minute, but that's secondary. The way we have found it works well is we use these 1-gallon grow bags from rootmaker.com. Now, they've been generous to us. They've been a supporter of our radio show for a number of years, and they've upped the coupon code for this year, 2021. If you go to rootmaker.com, you can buy anything and everything you want. Use radio21 at checkout and save 15% off your entire order for the duration of 2021. So we've got these 1-gallon grow bags, and we fill them full of soil. And what the benefit of using these are about 7 inches tall, give or take, somewhere 6 to 7 inches tall. We put the seed at the top, and it has all of this room to grow roots, and it becomes this very mass amount of roots that at the time of planting, we can gently tip out and pull the roots out, separate them, and plant them accordingly. A lot of soil in here with a slow release fertilizer. We're using a potting mix, and that gives the plant adequate moisture. We have to water these regularly, but the more mass of soil you have in the container, the slower it dries out, so the better chance that some people's plants will grow, because some people will forget to water them. So keep that in mind. So Radio 21, save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. The type of onions we're going to grow are Walla Wallas, Yellow of Parma, and Esther Craig. Those are the varieties in which we're going to grow. And then we're going to grow American flag leeks and then Esther Cook leeks. These are a new one, these Esther Cook leeks. They can measure up to 3 inches. It says on the back, this hardy winter leek has a luscious, mild flavor and produces a stem measuring 3 inches or greater. So 3 inches, that is quite a large diameter. Broom handles like maybe 1 inch, so you kind of think of how big those are, and that's what attracted us to these leeks. Leeks can be grown anywhere in the world, anytime. They are not determined by your geographical location. If you're in the south, north, the UK, Australia, if it's the right time to plant leeks, you can plant whatever variety you want. So I'm going to get some of these filled up with potting soil, and I'll show you in a moment how I'm doing such, so you can either mimic or put your own twist on it in your own growing situation. Okay, so I filled these up with a potting soil from a local garden center. It's derived from organic regional materials. It's got perlite in it. It's got a slow release fertilizer. and it doesn't contain any large particles. Now you can start in compost. We've done that for years, works very well. The benefit to if you're going to look for a potting mix / seed starting mix, you want something with a slow release fertilizer. And you don't have to go get name brand stuff in a little bag for quite a lot of money. You can get large cubic foot or sometimes 2 cubic foot bags from your local garden center that's manufactured by that particular center, or locally, where you can get a lot more quantity for a lot less cost. And of course, as you see on the table here, you want to make sure you make a very large mess when filling these things, because that's part of the fun of the process. So what I've done is, you do not have to fill these all the way to the brim. That's not required, not necessary. It actually is a little bit better that we leave about an inch here. So we've really got about 5.5 inches of potting soil in there. A lot of area for a lot of good, healthy roots. So I'm going to finish topping this one off here. And then the way I finish them off is, I do take the bottom here and just try to get somewhat of a level surface so it's easier for the seed starting procedure. Now, another thing you need to do is label your onions. We use plastic window blinds. You can probably got some in your house. A lot of people throw them out. Very easy. One window blind will serve you for many, many years in 4 to 5 inch pieces here. So you want to label them, because until they come up and start developing, the leeks and the onions look the same. So you want to be aware of that. So now, this soil that we're using is already very, very moist coming out of the bag from the store. So we don't have to worry necessarily about hydration, but I'll talk about how we can hold that moisture in just a minute. So let's start with the Walla Walla onions, and the application which I'll show you for the Walla Walla onions is the same for all the onions, and then we'll talk about the leeks in a moment. These packages contain 100 seeds. You don't have to plant all the seeds. Seeds are good for multiple years based on the variety and how you store them. However, we plant all of them at the same time due to, so we can get the best possible germination and the most amount of plants. So all I'm doing is I'm just sprinkling them in a spiral planting method, just as long as I'm getting them, not piling all up in one area, but distributing them around. You're going to have them all grow up like a big wad of grass, and then you can separate them at the time of planting. Now that that is taken place, I would take some soil from the bag, but I've got some here that I haven't planted in, and I'm just going to drape about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, give or take a little bit. It doesn't, if you get 1 inch of soil on them or 1/2 inch, it's not detrimental. Because we're using this potting soil seed starting mix, it's very loose and fluffy, and we'll do a little tap there to make sure we have good seed contact. They're going to pierce through. Now, it's going to happen very, very quickly if you're growing in your home, in a side of a bedroom or a spare room. You're going to have 4 to 10 days is how quickly they're going to come up. Now, you're still going to have to water. If you leave it exposed like that, set underneath or on the ground next to under the grow lights, which they don't have to be on until they start you see growth. This is going to dry out in about a day, the top inch, and then more water is going to wick out of the soil, and within a week this thing's going to be bone dry. So we're going to take some paper towels. For this application, we're going to need a full size or 2 halves, and we're just going to tuck it in, fold it under, and add just a tad of water in order to kind of hold it in. Now, what will occur here in the next 48 to 72 hours is this paper towel will turn bone dry and form a crust over top of the soil. It's not going to inhibit the growth of any of the seedlings, whether we're doing tomatoes or peppers or eggplants or onions like this. What you do want to be aware of is that time clock, that 4 to 10 days. So in about 3 days to 4 days, this will be dry enough that you can just pull it right up. It'll be nice and crusty and have a nice layer, and this prevents the moisture from evaporating from the soil. Once you begin to see the seedlings emerge, then you want to remove this in its entirety. Even though not all the seeds will have germinated, when you start seeing about 50% of them emerge, pop through the soil, go ahead and remove that. If you forget, a lot of the seeds will grow underneath it because it still thinks it's soil it's trying to pierce through. So you're not going to kill the plants, but you do want to be very, very aware of this. Okay, so that was the Walla Walla. We've got to label that so we remember that, otherwise we're going to have a terrible mess in our hands. So I'm going to get the rest of these planted, and then we'll talk about planting the leeks, and then we'll talk about grow lights and where to put these. Now, again, if you're in a house in a corner of a room, normal homes are 68, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. You're not going to need a heat mat or any additional heating methods in order to keep the soil warm because the house is already warm enough. So I'll get these done and we'll go to the leeks. So I've got the onions done, the 3 varieties, and I put them in a 10 by 20 flat. 3 of these 1-gallon bags fit very nicely in there. And that way, when we do need to water, we can either water from the top early on, which we shouldn't have to in the first 4 to 10 days, and once the plants emerge, we can bottom water, and these bags are porous, and the water will wick up, so it's very easy. You're not disturbing the plant by blasting water on the top and blowing the seeds, disrupting the seeds. With the packages, we don't want to throw these away because there's a lot of valuable information on the back about them, so we want to save those and put those in a good spot so we know where they're at. That's all done there. So let's work on the leeks here. Now we've got the Esther Cook leeks, and then we've got some American flag leeks that we have saved. So the planting the regular bought store leeks like this, same as we did with the onions. Nothing changes there. I do want to show you the difference here with seeds that we have saved ourselves. Now these are still, there's a lot of chaff in here that we've just taken the head and shook it off, and when you squeeze these, you get the little leek, the little black seed in there. So you can see there's one there, there's a lot of them. So to make it very easy, you're just going to take and grind them between your hands to try to bust the seeds out of the pods, and you can guess. Your guess can be however many you think you've planted. I would suggest overplant, because sometimes when you save your own seeds, you may not have harvested them when they are at their peak maturity, and they may be immature and won't germinate. So that's how we do it with the saved seeds. When we grind them up, you can see all the black seeds there that we're going to distribute in the grow bag for the starts. So we'll do that, and then we'll take a little soil, and again, if you get a 1/2 inch or an inch, not a big deal because you're dealing with light stuff, light soil here, so you just want to make sure all of that chaff is covered. That will indicate you got the seeds covered. Then we'll put the marker in there, we'll cover it up, and then we'll do the same procedure with the other one, just like we did the onions. I'll do that, and then I'll meet you on the floor under the table, and we'll talk about grow light setup and what you should look at or invest in order to have the best success starts. Because if you start with bad starts or very sad starts, transferring them into the garden is just going to be a struggle and a disappointment. All right, so we're down on the floor now. Underneath this table we've got in the corner of the room, we've got a radiator next to the table. That's a device that puts heat out for you younger people. We're in an old house. And then we've got the Happy Leaf LED grow lights from happyleafled.com. This is a very old version. This is one of the first 2 or 3 generations. This is a much newer version that they have. They come in 4, 17, and 33-inch links. And you can kind of see the spectrums of light there. Very powerful light for the size in which it is. It will broadcast the light 3 trays across. So I could have onions, peppers, and eggplants all underneath one light without any issue of light stretch or plant stretching or getting leggy. So that's really nice. So you can go to happyleafled.com, get the grow lights. This here is about 8 years old right now, and it still works every time. A lot of people who use the Happy Leaf grow lights grow microgreens year-round, or with the new lights they have, it's so natural light they'll actually install it into their living quarters to have ambient fake sunlight. It's so natural you would think the sun was coming in all the time. But anyway, with your grow lights, you don't have to turn them on until you see the sprouts emerging. Then you want to turn the lights on. Notice how high the light is from the plant. Traditional tube lights, you got to have that thing right on top of the plants. This here, because of that abundance and intensity of light coming off of it, this will stay 7 to 14 inches above the plants all the time. And it does not allow, the plants don't stretch because they're getting such the proper and abundant amount of light. These lights come with a timer, so they automatically go on and go off according to what you want. We'll leave them, we'll run from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then have them off from 9 to 7. That's just the cycle in which we have done. So starting onions, starting leeks, if you do it properly and you get a good seed starting mix, good healthy seeds, and get them started underneath a good grow light, they're going to be phenomenal plants in order to take out and transplant in your garden so you can have food to feed your family now more important than ever. Thanks for watching. I'm Joy Bear. Join me again next time for more seed starting and garden growing tips. This has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.